Hello everyone, I am the Spookiest Ghost, and welcome to another video. So, today I will be making a very spooky video, but not really. For those of you that have been here for a while, you might remember that last year on Halloween, I made a video where I talked about Sonic.exe, aka probably the most amazing creepypasta ever written. Super scary, super spoopy, 10 out of 10 would recommend if you want to be scared. I'm kidding. But yeah, so I talked about that creepypasta. I basically made fun of it and talked about how it was really fucking bad. And this year, quite a few people suggested that I talk about Jeff the Killer, one of the most famous or infamous creepypastas, depending on how you want to look at it. And I'm gonna be honest with you, in my opinion, I actually think that Jeff the Killer is worse than Sonic.exe. And the reason for that is not actually because of how it's written, but rather because of the fan base, because at the very least, I would say that the majority of people know that Sonic.exe sucks. It's a pretty popular opinion that Sonic.exe is not the best story out there. However, with Jeff the Killer, yes, there are like a decent amount of people that know that the story is fucking garbage, you know, it's just a complete dumpster fire, but there's also quite a few people, specifically young, I would say preteen to teenage girls, that think that this is the most amazing story ever written and that are completely infatuated with Jeff the Killer, which is strange because he looks like this. Why you would be attracted to this man, or kid I guess, because technically he's a teenager, I don't know. Maybe they're blind, whatever. It only makes it worse that he's a serial killer too, because he's not even like an attractive serial killer, he's ugly and he's a fucking murderer. Lose-lose situation. The point is that this creepypasta fucking sucks. Just like Sonic.exe, there are tons of writing errors in this story, but there's also just so many things that don't make sense, stupid cliches, and things that just, like, you just read it and all you can think is why? Why the fuck would you think that that's a good idea? But the best way to show you what I mean is to just read it. So, without further ado, let's get into the story. Excerpt from a local newspaper. Ominous unknown killer is still at large. After weeks of unexplained murders, the ominous unknown killer is still on the rise. After little evidence has been found, a young boy states that he survived one of the killer's attacks and bravely tells his story. "I had a bad dream and I woke up in the middle of the night," says the boy, because that's what little boys sound like before their balls drop. "I saw that for some reason the window was open, even though I remember it being closed before I went to bed. I got up and shut it once more." What little kid says once more? "Afterwards, I simply crawled under my covers and tried to get back to sleep. That's when I had a strange feeling like someone was watching me. I looked up and nearly jumped out of my bed. There, in the little ray of light, illuminating from between my curtains, were a pair of two eyes. These weren't regular eyes. They were dark, ominous eyes. They were bordered in black and just plain out terrified me. That's when I saw his mouth, a long, horrendous smile that made every hair on my body stand up. The figure stood there, watching me. Finally, after what seemed like forever, he said it. A simple phrase, but said in a way only a madman could speak. He said, 'Go to sleep.' I let out a scream. That's what sent him at me. He pulled up a knife, aiming at my heart. He jumped on top of my bed. I fought him back. I kicked, I punched, I rolled around trying to knock him off me. That's when my dad busted in. Aw, look at this awesome dad busting into his son's room to save him from a serial killer. Can't relate because my dad left when I was a child, so I'm totally over it though, it's fine. The man threw the knife. It went into my dad's shoulder. The man probably would have finished him off if one of the neighbors hadn't alerted the police. They drove into the parking lot and ran towards the door. The man turned and ran down the hallway. I heard a smash, like glass breaking. As I came out of my room, I saw the window that was pointing towards the back of my house was broken. I looked out it to see him vanish into the distance. I can tell you one thing, I will never forget that face. Those cold, evil eyes and that psychotic smile. They will never leave my head. Before I continue, I just want to know what kid talks like this? Because I've met quite a few little boys. Well, first of all, I have a younger sister, so I saw her grow up. Like, she knew boys in middle school, so I've heard them. Not middle school, sorry, elementary school. I remember the boys in my elementary school. I just don't want anyone to think I'm a fucking pedophile. But the point is that little kids as a whole do not speak like this. I can guarantee you that if you asked a little boy to recount that kind of experience, they would just start crying. And maybe they would be able to say, it was scary, there was a scary man, and he was really scary. But I don't think that they would go into this much detail and be saying shit like, I simply crawled under my covers and tried to get back to sleep. That's when I had a strange feeling like someone was watching me. Or, these weren't regular eyes, they were dark, ominous eyes. They were bordered in black and just plain out terrified me. That's when I saw his mouth, a long, horrendous smile that made every hair on my body stand up. Does that really sound like something a child would say when recounting a traumatic event? Because I don't think so, but I digress. Police are still on the look for this man. If you see anyone that fits the description in this story, please contact your local police department. And then without any sort of transition whatsoever, Jeff and his family had just moved into a new neighborhood. Yeah, but there's no transition, which is weird. There should be at least like some dots to show that you're moving on. Why am I expecting this to be written like a good story? I'm giving them too much credit, you know? Jeff and his family had just moved into a new neighborhood. His dad had gotten a promotion at work, and they thought it would be best to live in one of those fancy neighborhoods. Talk about white privilege. Ugh. Fucking disgusting. Jeff and his brother Lou couldn't complain though. A new, better house? What was not to love? As they were getting unpacked, one of their neighbors came by. Can I just say, that's not true. Most young kids would complain because it doesn't matter if you have a nice big house now. Doesn't change the fact that you had to move away from the place that you grew up and you lost every single one of your friends. Everybody that you grew up with is fucking gone. Unless they didn't move that far away. But it doesn't seem like it. It seemed like they moved far away to a place where, you know, they don't really know anybody because they also started new school, but whatever. Hello, she said. I'm Barbara, and I do Xanax and drink myself to sleep because my husband doesn't want to touch me. I'm just kidding. Every time you hear like Barbara or Susan or Carol, I just immediately think of like cul-de-sac moms that drive their kids to soccer practice and then cry because they know that their husband is cheating on them with their secretary. No offense to anybody named Barbara or Susan or Carol. Hello, she said. I'm Barbara. I live across the street from you. Well, I just wanted to introduce myself and to introduce my son. She turns around and calls her son over. Billy, these are our new neighbors. Billy said hi and ran back to play in his yard. Well, said Jeff's mom, I'm Margaret, and this is my husband Peter, and my two sons Jeff and Lou. They each introduced themselves, and then Barbara invited them to her son's birthday. Jeff and his brother were about to object when their mother said that they would love to. When Jeff and his family are done packing, Jeff went up to his mom. Mom, why would you invite us to some kid's party? If you haven't noticed, I'm not some dumb kid. Jeff, said his mother, we just moved here. We should show that we want to spend time with our neighbors. Now, we're going to that party, and that's final. This has never happened to me. Even when I lived in a neighborhood where most of the neighbors spoke to each other, we were still never that close that we would invite each other to our kids' birthday parties, unless they were friends. But I only had like one or two friends that I was close enough with in my neighborhood to go to their parties. Is this a real thing that happens? Like, I feel like this like super friendly neighbors that show up to your house as soon as you move in with like cookies doesn't fucking happen in real life. Like, I feel like that only happens in movies, and I'm genuinely curious to know if that's ever actually happened to someone in real life. Jeff started to talk, but stopped himself, knowing that he couldn't do anything. Whenever his mom said something, it was final. He walked up to his room and plopped down on his bed. He sat there looking at his ceiling when suddenly he got a weird feeling. Not so much pain, but a weird feeling. Gee, thanks for fucking clarifying. Thank you so much for clarifying that when you said that he got a weird feeling, you meant that he got a weird feeling. He dismissed that as just some random feeling. He heard his mother call him down to get his stuff, and he walked down to get it. The next day, Jeff walked downstairs to get breakfast and got ready for school. As he sat there eating his breakfast, he once again got that feeling. This time, it was stronger. It gave him a slight tugging pain, but he once again dismissed it. As he and Lou finished breakfast, they walked down to the bus stop. They sat there waiting for the bus, and then all of a sudden, some kid on a skateboard jumped over them, only inches above their laps. They both jumped back in surprise. Hey, what the hell? I just imagine that Jeff sounds like the stereotypical average emo kid, but whatever. The kid landed and turned back to them. He kicked his skateboard. I just realized something. Why do I always say but whatever after I finish a sentence? The whole point of this is for me to make comments on it. Why do I do that? I'm sorry, I'm gonna try to stop. I bet most of you didn't even notice that until I brought it up, but I felt the need to bring it up. The kid landed and turned back to them. He kicked his skateboard up and caught it with his hands, cause he's a fucking cool kid living that fucking skate life, you know? The kid seems to be about 12, 1 year younger than Jeff. Wait, Jeff is 13? Are you serious? Oh my god. He wears an Aeropastel shirt and ripped blue jeans, you know, like a fucking prep. If you want to hear me read My Immortal, let me know, because a while back, Creepshow Art and I were talking about making a video where we read My Immortal, so maybe I'll actually do that. But anyway, sorry, that's really off topic, I just remember that. Well, it looks like we got some new meat, cause that's really fucking scary. Suddenly, 2 other kids appeared. One was super skinny, and the other was huge. Oh my god, first we have white privilege, now we have fat shaming. Oh my god. If they say one more offensive thing, I am going to have a conniption. Well, since you're new here, I'd like to introduce ourselves. Over there is Keith. Jeff and Lou looked over to the skinny kid. He had a dopey face that you would expect a sidekick to have. And he's Troy. They looked over at the fat kid. Talk about a tub of lard. This kid looks like he hadn't exercised since he was crawling. And I, said the first kid, am Randy. Now for all the kids in the neighborhood, there is a small price for bus fare if you catch my drift. Can you imagine if a kid that fucking sounded like that tried to come up to you and, like, you know, threaten you to get your lunch money? I'd just spit in his face. Lou stood up, ready to punch the lights out of the kid's eyes when one of his friends pulled a knife on him. I had hoped you would be more cooperative, but it seems we must do this the hard way. The kid walked up to Lou and took his wallet out of his pocket. Jeff got that feeling again. Now, it was truly strong, a burning sensation. He stood up, but Lou gestured him to sit down. Jeff ignored him and walked up to the kid. Listen here, you little punk. Give back my bro's wallet or else. Randy put the wallet in his pocket and pulled out his own knife. Oh? And what will you do? Just as he finished the sentence, Jeff popped the kid in the nose. As Randy reached for his face, Jeff grabbed the kid's wrist and broke it. Damn, okay, this 13-year-old is fucking strong. Randy screamed and Jeff grabbed the knife from his hand. Troy and Keith rushed Jeff, but Jeff was too quick, cause he's a fucking karate master now. He threw Randy to the ground. Keith lashed out at him, but Jeff ducked and stabbed him in the arm. Keith dropped his knife and fell to the ground screaming. Troy rushed him too, but Jeff didn't even need the knife. He just punched Troy straight in the stomach, and Troy went down. As he fell, he puked all over. Lou could not do anything but look in amazement at Jeff. Jeff, how'd you... was all he said. They saw the bus coming and knew they'd be blamed for the whole thing, so they started running as fast as they could. As they ran, they looked back and saw the bus driver rushing over to Randy and the others. As Jeff and Lou made it to school, they didn't dare tell what happened. All they did was sit and listen. Lou just thought of that as his brother beating up a few kids, but Jeff knew it was more. It was something scary. As he got that feeling, he felt how powerful it was. The urge to just hurt someone. He didn't like how it sounded, but he couldn't help feeling happy. He felt that strange feeling go away and stay away for the entire day of school. Even as he walked home due to the whole thing near the bus stop and how now he probably wouldn't be taking the bus anymore, he felt happy. When he got home, his parents asked him how his day was, and he said in a somewhat ominous voice, "It was a wonderful day." I can't do an ominous voice. I don't think that was ominous, but whatever. Next morning, he heard a knock at his front door. He walked down to find 2 police officers at the door, his mother looking back at him with an angry look. Jeff, these officers tell me that you attacked 3 kids, that it wasn't regular fighting, and that they were stabbed. Stabbed, son! Is this mom like a fucking gangster? She's like, they were stabbed, son. What up, cuz? Like, you stabbed somebody? Bro, that's fucked up. Jeff's gaze fell to the floor, showing his mother that it was true. Mom, they were the ones who pulled the knives on me and Lou. Son, said one of the cops, we found 3 kids, 2 stabbed, 1 having a bruise on his stomach, and we have witnesses proving that you fled the scene. Now, what does that tell us? Jeff knew it was no use. He could say him and Lou had been attacked, but then there was no proof it was not them who attacked first. They couldn't say that they weren't fleeing, because truth be told they were. So Jeff couldn't defend himself or Lou. Before I continue, I just want to say that the grammar and spelling in this story is actually better than I thought it would be. So I'll give them credit where credit is due. It doesn't make it a good story, but at least I don't feel like I'm losing brain cells by reading it, or at least not yet. Anyway, son, call down your brother. Jeff couldn't do it since it was he who beat up all the kids. Sir, it was me. I was the one who beat up the kids. Lou tried to hold me back, but he couldn't stop me. The cop looked at his partner, and they both nod. Well, kid, looks like a year in juvie. Wait, what? He doesn't even get a trial or anything? Like, they just, a year in juvie, that's it. Court? Fuck that shit. Right to a fair trial? Nope. We don't care about that in this universe. You're just going straight to juvie. Even though there's really like no actual evidence other than witnesses saying that you were there to prove that you did this, which, you know, anybody that knows anything about crime knows that witness testimony is taken very lightly as evidence, because a lot of the times witnesses either lie or it's possible that they might just remember something incorrectly. So witness testimony is not really the best evidence, and is definitely not enough evidence to put you in juvie for a year without even giving you a trial. Once again, I'm overthinking this though. Obviously, they're not looking at it from a logical perspective. Wait, says Lou. They all looked up to see him holding a knife. The officers pulled their guns and locked them on Lou. It was me. I beat up those little punks. Have the marks to prove it. He lifted up his sleeve to reveal cuts and bruises as if he was in a struggle. What the fuck? That's so weird. How did he know that the police were gonna come and try to arrest Jeff? So he was like, let me cut myself and beat the shit out of myself so that I can say that I did it instead of Jeff? Like, that's kind of fucking crazy, isn't it? At least he's doing it for a good cause, but like, still, you know? Son, just put the knife down. That's their favorite fucking word, I swear, said the officer. Lou held up the knife and dropped it to the ground. He put his hands up and walked over to the cops. Why even bring the knife? What was the point of the knife? Like, why did you need to bring the knife? He could have just said that it was him, because that knife, I guarantee you, was not the actual weapon that the crime was committed with. Because there are knives in pretty much everyone's house. I can almost guarantee you that he was holding a regular kitchen knife, but I digress. No, Lou, it was me. I did it. Jeff had tears running down his face. Huh. Poor bro, trying to take the blame for what I did. Well, take me away. The police led Lou out to the patrol car. I like how nobody, not the mom, not Jeff, not Lou, questioned the fact that they're not getting a trial and he's just immediately being sent to a juvenile detention center. That's not fucking fair. Lou, tell them it was me. Tell them I was the one who beat up those kids. Jeff's mother put her hand on his shoulders. Jeff, please. You don't have to lie. We know it's Lou. You can stop. Jeff watched helplessly as the cop car speeds off with Lou inside. A few minutes later, Jeff's dad pulled into the driveway, seeing Jeff's face and knowing something was wrong. Son, what is it? Jeff couldn't answer. His vocal cords were strained from crying. Instead, Jeff's mother walked his father inside to break the bad news to him as Jeff wept in the driveway. After an hour or so, Jeff walked back into the house, seeing that his parents were both shocked, sad, and disappointed. He couldn't look at them. He couldn't see how they thought of Lou when it was his fault. He just went to sleep, trying to get the whole thing off his mind. 2 days went by with no word from Lou at JDC. No friends to hang out with. nothing but sadness and guilt. That is, until Saturday, when Jeff is woken up by his mother with a happy, sunshiny face because she just fucking forgot that her son was sent to juvie. "Jeff, it's the day," she said as she opened up the curtains and let light flood into his room. "What? What's today?" asked Jeff as he stirs awake. "Why, it's Billy's party." He was now fully awake. "Mom, you're joking, right? You don't expect me to go to some kid's party after..." There was a long pause. "Jeff, we both know what happened. I think this party could be the thing that brightens up the past days. Now, get dressed." These parents really don't give a fuck about their kid. 2 days went by with no word. That is until Saturday. So I'm gonna assume that it's been about 3 days since he was arrested, and his parents are just like totally fucking over it. Like, they don't even care. And on top of that, there's no mention of his parents even suggesting getting a lawyer. They just accepted that he's guilty and that he's just gonna go to jail. They didn't even question it. They didn't even request that their own son get a fair and proper trial. Holy shit, these are like the worst parents in the world. Like, how can you just let your son get arrested without allowing him to have a trial? Jeff's mother walked out of the room and downstairs to get ready herself. He fought himself to get up. He picked out a random shirt and a pair of jeans and walked downstairs. He saw his mother and father all dressed up. His mother in a dress and his father in a suit. He thought why they would ever wear such fancy clothes to a kid's party. "Son, is that all you're going to wear?" said Jeff's mom. "Better than wearing too much," he said. His mother pushed down the feeling to yell at him and hid it with a smile. "Now, Jeff, we may be overdressed, but this is how you go if you want to make an impression," said his dad. Jeff grunted and went back up to his room. That's fucking stupid. Like, can you imagine you invited somebody to your kid's birthday party and they showed up in a fucking tuxedo and a cocktail dress, and you're like, "Bitch, it's a kid's birthday party. We're eating pizza and we're gonna have cake, okay? I'm wearing a t-shirt and fucking shorts and you're wearing a tuxedo. You're not making a good first impression. You just look crazy." "I don't have any fancy clothes," he yelled downstairs. "Just pick something out," called his mother. He looked around in his closet for what he would call fancy. He found a pair of black dress pants he had for special occasions and an undershirt. He couldn't find a shirt to go with it though. He looked around and found only striped and patterned shirts, none of which go with dress pants. Finally, he found a white hoodie and put it on. "You're wearing that?" they both said. His mother looked at her watch. "Oh, no time to change. Let's just go," she said as she herded Jeff and his father out the door. They crossed the street over to Barbara and Billy's house. They knocked on the door and at it appeared that Barbara, just like his parents, way overdressed. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. As they walked inside, all Jeff could see were kids, no adults. "The kids are out in the yard, Jeff. How about you go and meet some of them?" said Barbara. Jeff walked outside to a yard full of kids. They were running around in weird cowboy costumes and shooting each other with plastic guns. He might as well be standing in a Toys R Us. Suddenly, a kid came up to him and handed him a toy gun and a hat. "Hey, wanna play?" he said. No, kid. I'm like way too old for this stuff." The kid looked at him with that weird puppy dog face. "Please?" said the kid. "Fine," said Jeff. He put on the hat and started to pretend shoot at the kids. At first he thought it was totally ridiculous, but then he started to actually have fun. It might not have been super cool, but it was the first time he had done something that took his mind off of Lou. So he played with the kids for a while until he heard a noise, a weird rolling noise. Then it hit him. Randy, Troy, and Keith all jumped over the fence on their skateboards. Jeff dropped the fake gun and ripped off the hat. Randy looked at Jeff with a burning hatred. Why is it that Randy, Troy, and Keith are the only people that ride skateboards in this town? I know people that ride skateboards, but if I hear a skateboard, I don't just immediately assume that that's them because there's so many people that ride skateboards. Why is it them specifically?
"Hello, Jeff, is it?" he said. "We have some unfinished business."
Jeff saw his bruised nose. "I think we're even. I beat the crap out of you and you get my brother sent to JDC. Randy got an angry look in his eyes.
"Oh no, I don't go for even. I go for winning. You may have kicked our asses that one day, but not today."
As he said that, Randy rushed at Jeff. They both fell to the ground. Randy punched Jeff in the nose and Jeff grabbed him by the ears and headbutted him. Jeff pushed Randy off of him and both rose to their feet. Kids were screaming and parents were running out the house. Troy and Keith both pulled guns out of their pockets. Why would you do this? Why would you jump somebody at a kid's party filled with kids and adults, and more importantly, witnesses that can get you sent to jail. You fucking idiots. If you're gonna jump someone, at least do it in a place where there aren't like 20 different adults that are watching you, all of whom have access to cell phones and all of whom probably called 911 immediately.
No one interrupts or guts will fly,
they said. Randy pulled a knife on Jeff and stabbed it into his shoulder. Jeff screamed and fell to his knees. Randy started kicking him in the face. After 3 kicks, Jeff grabs his foot and twists it, causing Randy to fall to the ground. Jeff stood up and walked towards the back door. Troy grabbed him. Need some help? He picks Jeff up by the back of the collar and throws him through the patio door. As Jeff tries to stand, he is kicked down to the ground. Randy repeatedly starts kicking Jeff until he starts to cough up blood.
Come on, Jeff! Fight me!
He picks Jeff up and throws him into the kitchen. Randy sees a bottle of vodka on the counter and smashes the glass over Jeff's head.
Fight!
He throws Jeff back into the living room.
Come on, Jeff! Look at me!
Jeff glances up, his face riddled with blood.
I was the one who got your brother sent to JDC, and now you're just gonna sit here and let him rot in there for a whole year? You should be ashamed.
Jeff starts to get up. I just realized something. Remember how they were talking about that strange feeling that Jeff was getting beforehand? Wouldn't you think that if it was that strong, that it would come back as soon as his brother was sent to prison? Like, if it's that strong, why does it just show up randomly? What, is it like meant to be supernatural or something? I don't think so, because it said mental illness in the tags, but I don't know what kind of mental illness causes you to get angry to the point where you want to kill somebody, even when nothing happened, and then when something does happen, not get that angry. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Oh, finally! You stand and fight!
Jeff is now at his feet, blood and vodka on his face. Once again, he gets that strange feeling, the one in which he hasn't felt for a while. It's been like 3 days, or like 5 days maximum. They haven't even been living here for a week. What do you mean he hasn't felt it for a while? Didn't it say that 2 days after the attack happened, the police came, and then another 2 days went by, and then this party happened? So that means it had to have been maximum like 5 days since they moved in and all this shit started happening. So don't tell me that it's been a while since he's felt that feeling, because that's bullshit.
Finally, he's up,
says Randy as he runs at Jeff. That's when it happens. Something inside Jeff snaps. His psyche is destroyed. All rational thinking is gone. All he can do is kill. He grabs Randy and pile drives him to the ground. He gets on top of him and punches him straight in the heart. The punch causes Randy's heart to stop. As Randy gasps for breath, Jeff hammers down on him. Punch after punch, blood gushes from Randy's body until he takes one final breath and dies. Okay, 2 things. First of all, this is not the type of situation where your psyche would snap. Yeah, he beat the shit out of Randy, but wouldn't it just be more likely that he went into fight or flight mode and it was like fight instead of flight, and that's why he beat the shit out of him, rather than just he went completely fucking insane? That's number 1. And number 2, how is a 13-year-old boy so strong that he was able to punch a kid in the heart and immediately make his heart stop beating? How? Is Jeff the killer actually One Punch Man? Conspiracy theory. Oh my god. But for real though, like literally 1 punch and he died. He killed him with 1 punch. How the fuck is that possible? Even like boxers can't do that shit. And yet here's a 13-year-old boy that can? God damn, dude. Everyone is looking at Jeff now. The parents, the crying kids, even Troy and Keith. Although they easily break from their gaze and point their guns at Jeff. Jeff sees the guns trained on him and runs for the stairs. As he runs, Troy and Keith let out fire on him, each shot missing. Jeff runs up the stairs. He hears Troy and Keith follow up behind. As they let out their final rounds of bullets, Jeff ducks into the bathroom. He grabs the towel rack and rips it off the wall. Troy and Keith race in, knives ready. You're telling me that they used up all of their ammo and they didn't even hit him once? Wow, that's pathetic. Holy shit. I have terrible aim, and even my aim is better than that, okay? I mean, not even once? With 2 guns? Troy swings his knife at Jeff, who backs away and bangs the towel rack into Troy's face. Troy goes down hard, and now all that's left is Keith. He is more agile than Troy though, and ducks when Jeff swings the towel rack. He dropped the knife and grabbed Jeff by the neck. He pushed him into the wall. A thing of bleach fell down on top of him from the top shelf. It burnt both of them, and they both started to scream. Wait, why was the bleach open? Like, if bleach falls from a shelf, it's not gonna spill on you unless it's open. So why was it open? Jeff wiped his eyes as best he could. He pulled back the towel rack and swung it straight into Keith's head. As he lay there, bleeding to death, he let out an ominous smile. "What's so funny?" asked Jeff. Keith pulled out a lighter and switched it on. "What's funny," he said, "is that you're covered in bleach and alcohol." Jeff's eyes widened as Keith threw the lighter at him. As soon as the flame made contact with him, the flames ignited the alcohol in the vodka. While the alcohol burned him, the bleach bleached his skin. Jeff let out a terrible screech as he caught on fire. He tried to roll out the fire, but it was no use. The alcohol had made him a walking inferno. He ran down the hall and fell down the stairs. Everybody started screaming as they saw Jeff, now a man on fire. He's 13. Why do they keep calling him a man? He just became a teenager. Dropped to the ground, nearly dead. The last thing Jeff saw was his mother and the other parents trying to extinguish the flame. That's when he passed out. When Jeff woke, he had a cast wrapped around his face. He couldn't see anything, but he felt a cast on his shoulder and stitches all over his body. He tried to stand up, but he realized that there was some tube in his arm, and when he tried to get up, it fell out and a nurse rushed in.
I don't think you can get out of bed just yet,
she said as she put him back in his bed and reinserted the tube. Jeff sat there with no vision, no idea of what his surroundings were. Finally, after hours, he heard his mother.
"Honey, are you okay?"
"Bitch, no! Your son got set on fire. What the fuck kind of...
Are you okay?
Bitch, would you be okay if you were stabbed, shot, had a fucking bottle of vodka smashed over your head, and you were lit on fire? Because I don't think you would be." Jeff couldn't answer though. His face was covered, and he was unable to speak.
"Oh, honey, I have great news. After all the witnesses told the police that Randy confessed of trying to attack you, they decided to let Lou go."
This made Jeff almost bolt up, stopping halfway, remembering the tube coming out of his arm.
"He'll be out by tomorrow, and then you two will be able to be together again."
Jeff's mother hugs Jeff and says her goodbyes. Why does she have to leave so soon? Like, you can't hang out with your son a little bit after he just woke up from a fucking coma? Like, you come in to tell him something, you tell him one sentence and then you leave? How hard is it to stay with your son for even an hour and just talk to him? Because he can't see anything. He has no way to entertain himself. He's just laying in bed doing nothing. Once again, these parents fucking suck. The next couple of weeks were those where Jeff was visited by his family. Then came the day where his bandages were to be removed. His family members were all there to see it, what he would look like. As the doctors unwrapped the bandages from Jeff's face, everyone was on the edge of their seats. They waited until the last bandage holding the cover over his face was almost removed. Why would his entire family be there to watch him get the bandages removed from his face after his face was severely burned? Why would you want to see that? You know it's gonna be bad. "Let's hope for the best," said the doctor. He quickly pulls the cloth, letting the rest fall from Jeff's face. Jeff's mother screams at the sight of his face. Lou and Jeff stare awestruck at his face. Why are you surprised that he looks deformed now? In their minds, it's like, oh my god, he had bleach poured on his face and vodka and he was lit on fire and now his face is permanently deformed? It's like the shocked Pikachu emoji, like, oh my god, he was severely injured and now you can see it? It's almost like that's what happens when bleach gets poured on your body and you get lit on fire. Although granted, I don't know if this is what would happen if you had bleach poured on your face and you were lit on fire. I don't think you would look like fat Michael Jackson. But hey, maybe that's just me. What? What happened to my face? Jeff said. He rushed out of bed and ran to the bathroom. He looked in the mirror and saw the cause of the distress. His face. It's horrible. His lips were burnt to a deep shade of red. His face was turned into a pure white color, and his hair singed from brown to black. He slowly put his hand to his face. It had a sort of leathery feel to it now. He looked back at his family, then back at the mirror. How is it that his lips would be burned, but his face would be bleached, and his hair would be singed from brown to black? Like, I don't know if you've ever seen somebody that's been in any sort of fire, but their hair color does not change. Who cares? This is a fucking creepypasta. pasta. They don't give a shit about physics. Is that even physics? I don't know. They don't care about science and the way things actually work. Jeff, said Lou, it's not that bad. Why the fuck you lying? That is the biggest fucking lie I've ever heard. How can you look at somebody who is permanently deformed and be like, it's not that bad when they look like this? Bitch, you're fucking busted. You look ugly. Although he technically wouldn't look like this as soon as they take the bandages off, because aren't his eyes like this because he cut his eyelids off? I don't even know if your eyelids would look like that if you cut your eyelids off. Also, they never mention what happened to his nose. Like, his nose is just gone. And his teeth are fucked up. I mean, they're super white, but look at how like crooked they are. Not that bad, said Jeff. It's perfect. His family was equally surprised. Jeff started laughing uncontrollably. His parents noticed that his left eye and hand were twitching, because that's what happens when you get burned with bleach. You just go completely fucking insane. I like how his psyche was destroyed, but he was also like completely fine for those like first few weeks up until they took the bandages, and then all of a sudden he like remembered, oh yeah, my psyche is broken. Alright, I'm supposed to be crazy now. If he was actually crazy, why would he have to remind himself that he's crazy? That's like when people commit crimes, and when they're committing a crime, they're like, I'm crazy, and that's why I'm doing this, so that they can plead insanity in court, when in reality, that's not gonna work, because you're not crazy if you know that you're crazy. If you can say, I'm crazy, then you're not insane enough to plead insanity and be found not guilty by reason of insanity. Jeff, are you okay? Okay. I've never felt more happy. Look at me! This face goes perfectly with me! He couldn't stop laughing. He stroked his face, feeling it, looking at it in the mirror. What caused this? Well, you may recall that when Jeff was fighting Randy, something in his mind, his sanity, snapped. Now, he was left as a crazy killing machine. That is, his parents didn't know. What the fuck? That doesn't make any sense. When you use that is, it's supposed to explain something. It would make more sense if he's like, now he was left as a crazy killing machine. That is, he's a psychopath. Or something like that. But also, it still doesn't make sense, because if his psyche had been destroyed, wouldn't he be crazy from the moment that he wakes up? Why is it that he's only crazy now? Like, that just doesn't make sense. Doctor, said Jeff's mom, is my son alright? You know, in the head? What a fucking bitch! I like how she says that, like, right in front of her son. Right in front of him after he wakes up with a permanent deformity. I mean, we already know that these parents are shitty though. Like, they're awful. Oh yes, this behavior is typical for patients that have taken very large amounts of painkillers. If his behavior doesn't change in a few weeks, bring him back here and we'll give him a psychological test. Are you sure about that? That's typical behavior for people on painkillers? Cause I've been on painkillers before, and I didn't do that shit. Yeah, so, I looked up the side effects of opiates, and, these are the only side effects I could find. Constipation, drowsiness, nausea, and vomiting, aka not going completely fucking mental and becoming a serial killer. But who cares about science in this world? That's not even a side effect of withdrawals, or a symptom of withdrawals, you know? I don't know where they got this idea that that's normal behavior for someone on painkillers. Anyway, back to the story. Also, in a few weeks, god damn, that's a long time to deal with some crazy ass shit like that. Oh, thank you, doctor. Jeff's mother went over to Jeff. Jeff, sweetie, it's time to go. Jeff looks away from the mirror, his face still formed into a crazy smile. "'Kay, mommy." His mother took him by the shoulder and took him to get his clothes. This doctor should have his license taken away if you think that somebody is just acting like that because they're on pain medication. Oh, there's so much that doesn't make sense about this. Like, this is... Oh, okay. I'll get into it once we're done with this story. "This is what came in," said the lady at the desk. Jeff's mom looked down to see the black dress, pants, and white hoodie her son wore. Now they were clean of blood and now stitched together. Wow, this hospital is so fucking nice. They stitch your clothes together? Jeff's mother led him to his room and made him put his clothes on. Then they left, not knowing that this was their final day of life. I love that they wrote it like that. This is their final day of life. Later that night, Jeff's mother woke to a sound coming from the bathroom. It sounded as if someone was crying. She slowly walked over to see what it was. When she looked into the bathroom, she saw a horrendous sight. Jeff had taken a knife and carved a smile into his cheeks. "Jeff,
what are you doing?" asked his mother. Jeff looked over to his mother. "I couldn't keep smiling, Mommy. It hurt after a while. Now I can smile forever." Jeff's mother noticed his eyes, ringed in black. "Jeff, your eyes!" His eyes were seemingly never closing. "I couldn't see my face. I got tired and my eyes started to close. I burned out the eyelids so I could forever see myself. My new face." Jeff's mother slowly started to back away, seeing that her son was going insane. "What's wrong, Mommy? Aren't I beautiful?" "Yes, son," she said. "Yes, you are. Let me go get Daddy so he can see your face." She ran into the room and shook Jeff's dad from his sleep. "Honey, get the gun!" Cause why would we call the police, maybe get an ambulance to try to help our son when we can just fucking kill him, right? Cause that's any normal parent would say that. She stopped as she saw Jeff in the doorway holding a knife. "Mommy, you lied." That's the last thing they hear as Jeff rushes them with the knife, gutting both of them. His brother Lou wakes up, startled by some noise. He didn't hear anything else, so he just shuts his eyes and tried to go back to sleep. As he was on the border of slumber, he got the strangest feeling that someone was watching him. He looked up before Jeff's hand covered his mouth. He slowly raised the knife, ready to plunge it into Lou. Lou thrashed here and there, trying to escape Jeff's grip. "Shh," Jeff said. "Just go to sleep." The end. Okay, now it's time to talk about all of the problems in this story. And where do I fucking begin? Let's just talk about the main issue that I have with this story, which is just the blatant misunderstanding of mental illness. If we go all the way up, right? In the tags, you can see it says madness, paranoia, and mental illness. This is not at all a proper representation of what happens when you have a mental breakdown. None of it makes any fucking sense, okay? First of all, I would probably say that the majority of people that have mental breakdowns do not just immediately become fucking serial killers. That's number one. Number two, I don't know what fucking hospital this was, but I guarantee you that if anybody was acting like that in a hospital, they would be sent for a psychiatric evaluation immediately. That is not normal in any way, shape, or form. And listen, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to sound like a mental health professional. However, I do have experience with mental health issues, and I am studying psychology currently, and this is not normal. First of all, psychotic breaks like this don't happen within the span of 5 or 6 days unless something extremely traumatic happens. And even if it does, I highly doubt that it would be to this extent. There's also, I feel like a lot of people have this idea that people that are mentally ill will constantly try to disfigure themselves and whatever. That's not true. There are people that are mentally ill that will cut themselves and they'll bite themselves and shit, but usually that's done, as a way to try to kill themselves, or maybe because they might have severe schizophrenia and the voices are telling them to do that. But very rarely are you gonna see somebody that has a psychotic breakdown that's gonna do this shit. That's not gonna happen. There's just so much wrong with this story. And more so, the worst part of it is that I wouldn't say necessarily that this story is glorifying murder or violence as a whole. However, the biggest issue with Jeff the Killer, I would say, is not the actual story, but rather how people perceived it. Because what ended up happening was a bunch of stupid little girls just decided, what's fucking cool? Murder. I'm a huge fan of Jeff the Killer, and it's totally okay that he's a murderer, and it's totally okay that he kills people because he's cute. Which, by the way, are you fucking blind? How is this cute to you? He's like fat Marilyn Manson, okay? The point is that this story, while it's not necessarily extremely poorly written, the way I expected it to be for whatever reason, there's still a lot of issues in it, and I would say that it's worse than Sonic.exe, because Sonic.exe
see was bad in a comedic way. You could kind of laugh at it because it was so stupid. But this story, you can't really laugh at it because nothing about it is funny. It's just a gross misrepresentation of people with mental health issues. And I've never like experienced like a psychotic break like this, but you know, I have seen, you know, my grandma has bipolar disorder, so I have seen her go into manic episodes. And you know, when you go into manic episodes, a lot of people just imagine that when you would go through that kind of episode that this is what it would be like, and that's not at all what it's like. I mean, yes, you can tell that they're not all there, but it's not this fucking crazy. I feel like people like this seem to have the idea that the Joker is a representation of every single person that's ever had a psychotic break, which is just blatantly untrue. If anything, it's like a very small amount of people, if any, that have done that. And I'm sure that not everybody that likes Jeff the Killer thinks that this is a proper representation of mental illness, but it doesn't change the fact that even if they know that this is not a proper representation, they're still glorifying it. They're still making it look like, oh, look at this cool guy who lost his fucking mind and started killing people for no reason. Isn't that so cool? Isn't he so cool? Like, no, that's not fucking cool. Why are you glorifying murder? Why are you glorifying mental illness? And why are you glorifying not getting help for mental illness? Because if this dumbass fucking doctor would have kept him there and done a psychiatric evaluation, none of this shit would have happened. Instead, this doctor was like, yeah, it's totally fine. That's just like, you know, the symptoms of fucking opiates. Like, no, it's not. I got surgery one time, actually like last year in June, and I was given Percocets. I fucking guarantee you that I was not acting like this. Actually, I was just asleep most of the time. I hated it, by the way. Like, I took Percocet and I don't understand how people get addicted to it because it just made me feel like shit. And the point is, this story is not good, but what makes it worse is the fan base, because the fan base takes a story that could just be a shitty horror story and instead turns it into a whole community of people glorifying severe mental illness, insanity, murder, and not getting help for your mental illness. And all of those things are fucked up. But I think that it's time to end this video. I've been recording for over an hour now. If you like this video, you can leave a like and subscribe. I'm sorry it got kind of serious to the end. It definitely wasn't as funny as the Sonic.exe one, just because this is a more serious issue where it's not just, oh, look at this like stupid story about a scary plushie. This is a story about somebody that goes fucking insane and then becomes a serial killer, which is way more serious than a haunted plushie. But if you like the video, you can leave a like and subscribe, and if you would like to see me read or critique any other creepypastas, you can let me know in the comments below. And if you have any suggestions other than creepypastas, then you can also let me know about those in the comments down below. If you'd like to stay updated with my channel, then you can follow me on all of my social medias, which will be linked in the description below. And thank you for watching. That's all for this video, and I hope to see you next time. Stay spooky. Bye.